Hello and welcome to another update video for Factory Default Build Trade Repeat. This time we are looking at version 0.0.3. I'm going to walk you through all the additions like the new countries, researches, production chains, and objectives, as well as several changes including the new research tree, changes in balance, expanded unit types, and new game options. Closing with some miscellaneous adjustments, numerous bug fixes, and a look at what's coming in the future. For the most part, I'm going to be reading from my patch notes and showing you what it all looks like in-game. Remember to check out searchet.itch.io/fd if you want to play for yourself. Let's begin with the research tree. The old research tree was admittedly very hard to read. My intention was to make it so that you could see all of the researchers at once, making it easier to read. I underestimated how many researchers there would be, so that was no longer the case once they were all added. Now it is a much more traditional research tree style, color-coded and connected by lines showing you what researches are prerequisites for others. It is not perfect, but it is far and away better than the original. Note that some researches don't have any items that get unlocked when you research them. These are placeholders for items that are coming in the future. These are marked with the red no item icon. Since we're here, I will point out there are 5 new researches devoted to power plants. Since power plants are overpowered, it only made sense to put them behind some research walls. The new researchers are fossil fuel power, which unlocks coal, lignite, oil, and natural gas power plants, nuclear power, which unlocks the nuclear power plant, hydroelectric power, which unlocks the hydroelectric power plant, geothermal power unlocks the geothermal plant, renewable power unlocks wind and solar power plants. Moving on, I've added 5 new countries. Algeria with 92 tiles, expert production in helium gas, crude oil, iron ore, mercury ore, natural gas, phosphate, and dates. Libya with 73 tiles, expert production in crude oil and natural gas. Democratic Republic of the Congo, 91 tiles, expert production in cobalt ore, copper ore, diamond, cassava, and plantains. Pakistan with 23 tiles, expert production in cotton, mangoes, sugarcane, buffalo, and goats. Indonesia with 76 tiles, expert production in cassiterite ore, coal ore, nickel ore, chili peppers, coconuts, mangoes, palm oil, pineapples, rice, rubber plants, and ducks. With these 5 new countries came 12 resources that were not yet in the game. The 9 mined resources include agate, aquamarine, helium gas, jadeite, jasper, morganite, peridot, ruby, and spinel. The 3 farmed resources are papayas, plums, and watermelons. Check out the patch notes if you want to know the quantities and values. Next we have a new production chain. Uranium ore through Uranium Fuel Assembly. Before I get into it, I'll just mention that obviously the process for creating uranium fuel assemblies in real life is much more complicated than the way it is portrayed in my game. Here are the new resources. Sulfuric acid, made from sulfur and oxygen gas. Yellow cake uranium, made from uranium ore and sulfuric acid. Calcium hydroxide, made from limestone. Potassium hydroxide, made from potash and calcium hydroxide. Hydrogen fluoride, made from fluorite and sulfuric acid. Potassium fluoride, made from potassium hydroxide and hydrogen fluoride. Fluorine gas, made from hydrogen fluoride and potassium fluoride. Uranium hexafluoride gas, made from yellow cake uranium, hydrogen fluoride, and fluorine gas. U-235 and U-238, made from uranium hexafluoride gas. Uranium dioxide powder, made from U-235, oxygen gas, hydrogen gas, and carbon monoxide. Polyvinyl alcohol, made from ethylene, chlorine gas, and oxygen gas. Uranium dioxide pellets, made from uranium dioxide powder, polyvinyl alcohol, hydrogen gas, and helium gas. Zirconium, made from zirconium ore. Zirconium alloy, made from zirconium, tin, and iron ingots. Argon gas, which is mined at 2 tons a day. Uranium fuel rods, made from uranium dioxide pellets, zirconium alloy, and argon gas. Chromium, which is made from chromite ore. Stainless steel, made from iron ingots, chromium, nickel, and molybdenum. Uranium Fuel Assembly, which is made from uranium fuel rods, zirconium alloy, and stainless steel. Nuclear power plants now take uranium fuel assemblies, 1 unit per day, to produce 50,000 megawatt hours per day, instead of raw uranium ore like before. With these new nuclear fuel items comes a new restricted status on items that governments wouldn't be too keen on citizens trading around. These items have a 10x cost to buy and a 10% value to sell. Items with this protection are uranium ore, yellowcake uranium, uranium hexafluoride gas, U-235, U-238, uranium dioxide powder, uranium dioxide pellets, uranium fuel rods, and uranium fuel assemblies. This will be shown to the player in the library, market, manager screen, as well as the tile info panel that appears when you build a new building or click on an existing building. These new items also require 4 additional researches: uranium milling, which unlocks yellowcake uranium, uranium conversion, which unlocks uranium hexafluoride gas and uranium dioxide powder, uranium enrichment, which unlocks U-235 and U-238, uranium fuel production, which unlocks uranium dioxide pellets, uranium fuel rods, and uranium fuel assemblies. One last addition before I move to the changes. I added a few objectives related to completing contracts. Accept a contract, which requires you to visit the contracts menu and accept any contract. The reward is 25 influence and 25 research. Complete a contract. Complete any contract without incurring a penalty. 50 influence and 50 research. Complete a B-class contract without incurring a penalty. 100 influence and 100 research, and so on. 2. Complete an S+++ contract without incurring a penalty, which is 3200 influence and 100 research. Now that we talked about the additions to the game, it's time to talk about the changes. My biggest goal with this update was tackling balance. I adjusted the output of most items to give them an even playing field, as far as general profitability, assuming that you are supplying the required materials without buying them, goes. The general rule of thumb is that farms will generate $1,000 in profit per day, mines will generate $10,000 in profit per day, refineries will generate $20,000 in profit per day, factories will generate $1,000 in profit per day. Obviously, there are a lot of factors that play into whether that number is going to be higher or lower, but those are the general goals. With this, I changed the starting buildings to better reflect the recipes. If you have the starting buildings enabled, I recommend building some tree farms to supply your refineries for some easy early game cash. Next is gas balance. Before adding helium, the 3 gases in the game were hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. With these, I saw no good reason why every country couldn't find a way to produce each respective gas. With the addition of helium, I had to rethink my approach. On one hand, helium deposits are all over the world, it's just a matter of someone willing to take advantage of those deposits and mine it. It's prohibitively expensive. On the other hand, there are definitely countries who produce much more helium than others. In addition, I don't want to overcrowd the fertilities bar with a resource that every country has access to, otherwise it's not much of a fertility. So I decided to balance it. Every country will have access to all gases, but there will be countries that have better rates depending on real-life production leaders. However, gases will not show up on the fertility bar, as it doesn't make much sense to do so. I am hoping this is a good balance. Next are unit changes. You might notice that there are 8 more units of measurement than there were before. This is to address the issue that items not measured in tons were all getting grouped together. For example, an electric vehicle would have the same mass as a circuit board. That didn't make sense, so I added 8 more units and adjusted the one that is already in the game. Note that the only change this really has is how much of each item can fit in a warehouse and how much each item can fit on transport. They are indicated by the little letter next to the quantity. Q would be a 100-ton unit. Think heavy machinery, which is not in the game yet. R is a 10-ton unit. Think jets or MRIs, not in the game yet. S is a 1-ton unit. Think electric vehicles. T is ton, which is most everything in the game. U is a 100-kilogram unit. Think EV battery pack. V is a 10-kilogram unit. Think televisions. W is a 1-kilogram unit. Think heat sinks. X is a 100-gram unit. think battery cells. Y is a 10 gram unit, think semiconductors. Z is a 1 gram unit, think microcontrollers. This also provided a nice sanity check while I was balancing, mostly with the production chains that have items measured in tons as the input and items measured by the unit being the output. Back to the new game settings. Resource generation in the new game options has been disabled. It will now be 100% no matter what. I broke it at some point and it seems like a silly option as it is multiplied by your production and your required goods, so in most cases it's just showing higher or lower inventories, but no more or less money. I removed 2 new game settings and replaced them with 2 more. I removed building proximity bonus because I removed the neighbor bonus from the game. It seemed silly to have a setting for it. And I removed utilities required because it is right next to utility costs, which basically does the same thing. I added contract payout multiplier, which is simply a multiplier for contract rewards, and added contract penalties multiplier. This is a multiplier to contract penalties, including 0 penalties if you want a really easy game. I removed managing of multi-output recipes from the tile info pop-up. When you build a new building or click on an existing one, you have the ability to hire, fire, or change management from there. This can get a bit tricky if there is more than one output, because whatever you change will change for all of the resources. This might be what you want sometimes, but other times this could be annoying, like if you want to empty your warehouse of U238, but not U235. Now those options are replaced by a button that will open the management screen, allowing the player to make the adjustments they need. Now to a miscellaneous setting that was pointed out in the comments of my last video. It made me laugh and made sense. I added the option to change date format between month date year and day month year. That way you can play with the date format that you are used to. Funnily enough, for the purposes of my game scripts, all dates are formatted as a single 8-digit integer as year, month, day. Under the hood, I changed the way fertilities and researches are kept track of. Next, on to bug fixes. I'm just going to read them quickly because there are a lot of them. Fixed huge issue with changing the production of a building. It would not remove the previous resource generation. It was basically free buildings on top of one another, but not letting you access anything other than the topmost building. Fixed issue with new placement of fertilities bar, not allowing you to click on the resources and open up the library. Fixed issue allowing the painting of mines for free. A related bug also showed the price of painting non-mines on mine tiles, even though actually building it was impossible. Fixed issue with the build menu not coming back up when hidden. Fixed issue with painting land with the eyedropper and paint tool, spending your influence even if you are painting over a tile you already own. To fix, I just disabled the ability to paint land with the eyedropper. You can already paint it with the land tool as it is. Fixed issue with building info not showing the fertility bonus to base production. 1 being standard, 2 being a 200% fertility, 3 being a 300% fertility. Fixed issue with buildings running below 100% efficiency, not popping the resource sprite above the building. Fixed the icon for nitrogen gas, it was showing the atomic number 2, that is fixed. Fixed issue with building. Depending on where your mouse was on the screen, you might build a building with none selected before you could even see what the options were. This shared the same problem with it sometimes building the last item on the list. This was due to the menu being generated while hidden and then moved to the mouse position and then shown. This made it so that the mouse button being down registered on the invisible buttons when they appeared. Fixed issue with the eyedropper and paint tool not disabling when you click on a different button in the build menu. It would visibly disable, but if you try to click on buildings, you would have still been on the eyedropper paint mode. That does it for this update, but I do want to talk about version numbers so far and going forward. Typically, game versions have a standard format for what they mean. For example, version x.y.z, x being the major version, y being the minor version, and z being the patch bug fix. Since I'm a solo dev with no plan to keep any sort of deadlines, I'm going to add an additional decimal and follow this format, w.x.y.z. W. This will be 0 until the potential 1.0, quite a long way away. X is the major version, Y is the minor version, most updates will be this number, and Z is bug fixes or quick patches. Most updates will update the Y number, example 0.0.3.0, 0.0.4.0, 0.0.5.0, 0.0.958.0, etc. As far as features go, my goals for 0.0.4.0 are auctions, mystery or bandit shipping containers that you can bid on before opening to find out what's inside. Could be full of gold or diamonds, but it's probably potatoes. I want to rework the market and management screens. They use the same scene and script, so they go together. They are clunky because every time you change filter parameters, all buttons are deleted and generated. Not elegant. I want to get into the habit of adding more countries and more production chains with most, if not all, updates. So I want to add 5 more countries and at least 1 more production chain. There might be a few more little additions or changes, we will see. Alright, so that does it for this update video showcasing the 0.0.3 update for factory default build trade repeat. Remember, if you want to play the game yourself, you can do so for free at searchet.itch.io/fd. Take care.